GitLab, and we're discussing our best candidates for Q3 OKRs for engineering. So I've recorded a video that's in the agenda. I've also linked to this issue 8303 in our handbook project. That's kind of the best overview if people want to read rather than watch a video. And then we can go right into questions. So Stella, you want to kick it off?
Okay. Number 3 was a comment. I enjoyed the clapping at the end. Can't wait to see what we do with the special effects next time. The second one was around the dog food and KR. I found most of them were very quantitative and it was clear like what the KR piece was, but for this one, it was just dog fooding. So I was wondering what completion would look like and if we could reframe that a bit.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. We definitely undershot on specifying this one. So I paid attention to the objective phrase and to the actual content of it, but I forgot to update this this one word. So I think I'll just update it to your suggestion, like complete 5 dog feeding initiatives. In practice, we tend to add to this throughout the quarter. So we'll probably detect like a 6th and a 7th. So I'll just have to remember to update, the quantity and the key result, but I think it makes sense to specify. And then, yeah, the idea of scoring is, each one of these things has kind of their own notion of 0 to 100%. And what I do is almost kind of like linear attribution, like we were talking about earlier, just kind of like equal weighting the average score of them is the score of this KR.
Yeah, and I think that's where I just question a little bit. Are some really important and some are less important? And I know getting into weighting is like a big mess in itself, but when you get to 7, are there 3 things that are KR levels we should really care about? You know that better than me, but it's the thing I'd ask you to consider.
Yeah, I think in general, what we're trying to do here is just make sure we're driving our culture of dog fooding. With product development, sometimes you don't understand the value of something for 1, 2, maybe 3 years after the fact when it's being widely adopted and used by customers. But we just want to make sure at this point that we're not wasting any effort. So if people are creating something they need for themselves, they're doing it in the open source project rather than just building a script that lives in their personal repo or something like that. And of course, the effort is higher, but the benefits are pretty clearly laid down in our values where we can give that value back to our users and our customers. And of course, the extent something gets traction, all of a sudden you have 5 or 10 people collaborating on it with you rather than just yourself. So that's what we're trying to make sure happens at this point.
Great, that makes sense. I can't be the only one with questions.
And I'm just making that that edit to the issue as we speak. So now it specifies the 5. Well, that being said, I mean, in terms of what the most important ones are, I think the one I'm most excited about is the plan stage one. So taking our project planning features and our portfolio management features and taking whatever's unused about that and actually getting them into our own planning process is a really important one, but also an exciting one at the same time. We do also have under the IACV one that's kind of dog fooding. So moving all GitLab.com stateless services to the stock Helm chart. That's really a dog fooding one, but we aligned it with the IACV objective instead. And I think now that I'm reading this, I remember Sid had an ask from our meeting last week to count the services here, kind of similar to your request about updating the dog fooding KR. So I'll get with Steve or Jerry or someone in infrastructure and actually have them tally up how many are remaining, and we'll count those down and we'll score it as such.
And I just added question 6 around, are there any key risks or dependencies that are worth flagging that you think may prevent achievement of some of these things?
I think the dependencies I called out last week still stand. People ops is going to help with the upstream diversity one. So I talked with Rose in our one-on-one. She's on board. I've since included Candace in that. We haven't had a chance to speak synchronously about it, but I imagine she's excited and willing to help out. And then I think the big one that we've got to figure out is the very last one on here. So Mech's going to be organizing some open source community outreach, making our project easier to contribute to. And I think we want to do some collaboration here with our community relations team. And we have, a week to figure that out before kickoff. But given that this is such a new thing for us to do in sort of an organized, very deliberate way, I should say, I think this is probably the most open-ended one, I would say.
Okay, I'm really excited about the upstream diversity one. It's going to be interesting to see like what we can take away from that and apply more broadly.
Yeah, I mean, and I state in the working group page, if people click through there, that you know, this is one that we're going to do, even though there may not be a direct benefit to GitLab, or if there's direct benefit, it may not be measurable. And that's usually, we like to do things that benefit the GitLab open source project, if not the company, and we like to do measurable stuff. But just, you know, reading and having experience with diversity value, I think there's this what I'm calling like a moral imperative, going back to my philosophy education and Immanuel Kant. Categorical imperative to do something upstream, even if it's not measurable, even if we can't directly attribute the impact. But at a minimum, there is a lot of excitement and energy in GitLab about our diversity value. And I think to the extent some of that has gone untapped, this will harness it. And I think that, if nothing else, is definitely going to be a benefit that we'll see from this. But I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, a year from now, we're talking about someone that we engaged and taught and got into the technology industry, and maybe we're hiring that person at GitLab. Maybe it's into our internship program, or maybe it's at a higher level. I'm not sure, but I think it'll be attributable. It's just we don't want to let that gate doing this or not. I think it's important enough where we get to do it regardless. Any comments or questions from anybody else? No? All right. Well, thanks so much, everybody. Of course, these things are still a work in progress, like everything is. So if you've got extra feedback, Slack me in my EVPE channel or comment directly in the issue, and we can do further iterations. But cheers. Have a good day.